अस्सलाम वालेकुम, मेरी आवाज़ आ रही है क्लियर? ये टाइप करके बताएं। ठीक है, ओके, लेट्स गेट स्टार्टेड। पहली चीज़ असाइनमेंट। फर्स्ट थिंग जो है उसको देख लें पहले। आप लोगों की जो एक मिनट, योर सेशनल्स जो क्राइटेरिया है that was shared a long time ago, and it requires an assignment, and it requires 5 quizzes in which 3 best scores will count. Okay, so don't worry too much about it. I think everyone has seen this file, the 15-mark assignment. You have to do any 3 of these tasks, any 3. And let me discuss quickly that you can do number 1, 2, 3, or you can do like 2, 5, 7, or whatever you like. It's no problem at all, and they are very simple problems, and you have to write the whole programs. And you have to create, in the first page you will write your name, roll number, batch, cloud ID, department on the first page of the PDF file, and in the next pages you will write the question, and then you will write any 3 of these. You will write any one question, and then you will write its code, and then you will copy paste the snapshots of the output, so that it will show that the code runs correctly. And then you save the PDF file. I think you will be editing this file in your Word, and then you will be saving your PDF file as in this format with this name, such as I've written EE12345 6. Let's say your batch is 18 or 19. I think it should be 19. EE 19001, that would be roll number 1. Okay, and let's say 19010, that would be roll number 10.pdf, so that we can track which student has submitted the file. The file would be submitted to go to your classwork, and then click this assignment, and then you have to submit, view assignment, and then submit. I think your format would be slightly different because this is from the teacher's perspective. Okay, the deadline is 7 September 2020, Monday, 11 p.m. or 2300 hours. And very quickly, I'm going to go through the GPA calculator. Will take the input, the how many subjects you have, the marks in each subject, theory and lab, and 3 into theory plus 1 into lab divided by 4. That would be for 3 plus 1 credit hour course. And some courses are 2 plus 1, so you have to multiply 2 into theory plus 1 into lab divided by 3. Some courses are 0 plus 2, so you have to multiply 0 into theory plus 2 into lab divided by 2, so on and so forth. It's a weighted average. Linear equation solver, these menu will ask for whether the user wants to solve for 2 variables or 3 variables. If you go to equation, if you go to your scientific calculator and you select mode and then you select 5, it gives you the menu for a n x plus b n y equals to cn, and number 2 is a n x plus b n y plus c n z equals to dn. So it should display it, and the user should enter the coefficients for xy or xyz and the constant value, and then it should solve using any method. You can use the determinant method or whatever method you want. Fibonacci sequence is very simple. You have to take, I mean, it starts with 0, 1, and the next value is the summation of previous 2 values. So 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2 plus 3 is 5, and then 5 plus 3 is 8, and so on and so forth. Sine or cosine using Taylor series, the formula is available on internet. You can search the Taylor series. It requires a nested loop. I think nested loop, not so sure, but it requires a nested loop. You have to make your own sine function with a double precision. You cannot use the built-in sine function, which is in CMath, a header file. Factorial with formatted output, I think I've done that in some recorded lecture. But you have to display this format: 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1 equals to 120. It requires a simple loop. That's it. A string reverser, take the input as an array or a string, then reverse all characters. So you obviously need to run the loop in reverse. Okay, database using objects. This thing will be explained in the next class, or maybe after 1 week. Because we haven't done the object-oriented programming yet, it will be covered in the last 2 lectures. Equation graph an equation, linear or quadratic, with of just 2 variables. Obviously, x plus y equals to, I mean, that would be a straight line. If it's y equals to x squared, so obviously that would be a parabola. You have to use the graphics library then and you have to search yourself what graphics library is. I might be, if time permits, because I'm not so sure about the calendar which is being followed in the university, because the midterm date was given as 20th July, but the midterm happened after 14th August. So I'm not so sure about the calendar. If I get one class, then I might be discussing the graphics library. It's actually very simple to use. Lots of built-in functions to make these windows and all these curves and everything. Okay, so this is very simple. I think you have done that in your statistics part. Not so sure about it. So there are about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 measures. Take the numbers from the user sequence of numbers. How many numbers? Let's say you can just say press C to exit or press E to exit, and take those numbers, store them in array, and calculate the standard deviation, variance, mean, mode, and median. The formulas are available on the internet. Take 4 alphabets, display all possible combinations and permutations. Um, this thing is slightly difficult, even though that is not seemingly looks very simple, but permutations and combinations are different. One allows the repetition, one and the other doesn't allow the repetitions. So if you have, let's say I have like 2 letters, so the possible combinations are A B, and B. So if I have 3 letters, so it's like A to triple C. So the hint is, if you can use the binary numbers 0 0 from 4 zeros to all ones, then it is possible to, and then assign using some method which you can develop yourself, then it's possible to create all these combinations. Random password generator, you have to use the random functions and the seed value has to be the system clock. You search internet. Okay, calendar for any month, this is really simple. If I just press for example, if I say August 2020, so it should display the calendar in this format. Okay, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it should display the calendar of this month. And last is unit converter. It's pretty simple. For it's a switch case problem. Take the input from the user about which unit to convert to which unit, display menu, and then take the input and convert it with the multiplier divided with the required value. Okay, so this is the assignment. You have to every student has to submit assignment separately, and this is the format. Next thing is the quiz. Quizzes are very simple. For quiz number 1, just go to these practice problems, and these practice problems were discussed in lecture number 3 and 16. See these quizzes, see these questions, and the problems will be asked from these questions only. There are about 5 to 10 problems. So I mean, it's actually kind of an open book quiz. If you want to, I mean, you can consult your book. The problems will be related to these questions only. Okay, I might be changing some values, or I might be changing some format or anything like that, but the answers are given. If you can understand these answers, if you can learn these answers, the quiz should not be a problem. Okay, I think 5 to 10 questions depends on user. So similarly, you will have same thing with quiz number 2, and for quiz number 3 you have to look at, you have to look at quiz number 3 file, and for quiz number 4 you have to look at this file. So I mean, this quiz number 4 is really short actually, and quiz number 5 is quite long. So I would suggest that you make sure that you score well in quiz number 1 to 3. The dates are given here. Sorry for these jam-packed dates, because we were hoping that the midterm would happen on 20th July, but it happened on like after 14th August. So I could not do anything about it. So we plan to actually conduct 1 quiz per week, but sorry, it's like 2 quizzes per week. So they are not that difficult. Just concentrate on these PDF files, and the questions will be from these PDF files. Slight changes, but you can do that. If you want to consult any book, you can consult your textbook, which is detail in detail for answering the problems. No problem at all. Electricity, rain, internet problems are everywhere. Right now it's raining, so you can attempt these quizzes. Link will be posted on above dates from 9 a.m. morning to 11 p.m. night, but the time limitation would be 1 hour, and that would be 1 submission per student. Okay, section A already had quiz number 1 before midterm, and section B will have quiz number 1 to 5. So I hope this thing is clear to everyone. ठीक है, अच्छा अब आते हैं, क्विज भी हो गया, असाइनमेंट भी हो गया, दैट्स इट। आई मीन दी सेशन विल बी पोस्टेड हियर। ओके, नाउ कमिंग टू द simple topic. First I'm going to, the topic is something known as pointers. Pointers are special variables which can store the address of some other object. But first, let's take a look at this is a simple problem. This is a simple code for figuring out the size. I've declared some variables: bool b, character c, integer n, long l, long integer ll I. I mean n and l are essentially the same because they are both of 4 bytes. Float is 4 bytes and d is of 8 bytes. So I'm going to print their sizes, and um, the sizes are bool is 1 byte, character is 1 byte, size of an integer is 4 bytes, long same is 4 bytes, long integer 8 bytes, float is 4 bytes, and double is 8 bytes. Okay, so obviously we have declared these variables, and these variables definitely exist in the memory somewhere. Okay, so what we are going to do is, I mean, this is the same program, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an address operator. The address operator is this ampersand sign. Okay, this is known as the address operator. I want to know if I'm declaring these variables. Let's say I've declared two variables, integer n1 and 2. These are essentially objects, and long integer 4 bytes, float f and d. I want to know where in the computer memory these objects are stored. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see out this. I mean, this is just a string actually. So I'm going to, instead of printing the value of n1, n2, l, f, d, because they would be containing some garbage values because I've declared these variables, but I have not initialized them. So we are not really concerned what values they hold. But now in this lecture, what we are concerned with is exactly where are these values stored. Okay, where are these values stored? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use something known as an address operator or a referencing operator. Something known as an address operator or a referencing operator. Don't worry about this line. This says system pause. Sometime in my computer, the window was disappearing for some awkward reason. I don't know about it. Don't worry too much about these lines. I'm going to explain that in a moment. So what I will just concentrate on these lines only. We have declared the variables, and the variables are stored somewhere in the memory, because in the memory, once we have declared the variable, there are three things associated with this variable. There are three things associated with this variable. Number one thing is I'm going to start up the uh, this thing. Okay, so let's say I've declared a variable in integer n1. So there are three things. Number one is the name of the variable. The name of the variable is n1. Okay, number two is what is the type of this variable. The type of this variable is integer. That means we are telling the compiler to declare or to allocate a memory in our computer memory space, in random access memory, RAM, or whatever, that should be of 4 bytes. Okay, and we are going to name this memory space as n1, and the type is integer. The type defines that what size of this memory space would be for n1, and what kind of operations can we perform on integer, because integer is a number. We can add, subtract, divide, multiply, but we cannot treat as the integer as a string or an array of characters, something like that. So we have to define the type as well. So the first thing is, what is the name of this variable? The name of this variable is n1. What is the type of this variable? It is integer, and it defines 4 bytes. The third thing is, what is the address, that where in the memory, because let's say my computer has 4 gigabytes of memory. Okay, my computer has, let me show you. If you go to Windows Explorer and right click your my computer, it will display the system properties. The system properties here says that my system type is a 64-bit operating system. Okay, 64-bit operating system. Sorry, I blurred out other things because I want to emphasize this part. And the memory, the usable memory is said, I think it's above here, which says that it is it has system memory is 4 GB. So where in the memory this thing is stored? So let's say if my computer has 4 GB of memory, it's not exactly 4 GB. It's actually 2 to the power 28. Sorry, not to the power 28. It's sorry, 2 to the power 32. This is the actual amount of memory in the computer, but the usable memory is slightly less depending on how many lines of buses are being used. I think I've discussed that somewhere in the previous lectures. Okay, so I mean, this is the approximate amount of bytes, because 1 byte is 8 bits. This is the approximate amounts of bytes in my computer installing. Your computer might have 8 GB or maybe 16 GB, or some might have 32 GB of random access memory. The reason is we can exceed the 4 GB limit is that my computer is a 64-bit operating system. So 64-bit operating system can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 18 billion gigabytes of memory. So obviously it's limited by hardware limitations or how many RAM chips I can install. But the 64-bit system can have a huge amount of memory available in, I mean, depending on how much it's installed. Right now, my computer has 4 GB of memory. Your might have 8 or maybe 16 GB of memory. And where in this memory is this n1 stored? We want to take a look there. So that's why what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the address of operator, and this address of operator is going to print on the screen that where in the memory space these objects are stored: the n1, n2 integers, the long integer, float f, and double type d. So I'm going to take a look at what these are. And sorry, and here it says that the n1 is stored at 22FE4C. The 0x signifies that we are talking about hexadecimal numbers, and we know that computer memory and computer always deals with binary numbers behind the scene. Everything in the computer is a number. The addresses are actually 64 bits long. So instead of writing those 64 bits as a bunch of zeros and ones, we know that using hexadecimal numbers, we can represent 4 bits as one hexadecimal number. Okay, so hexadecimal number goes from 0 to 9, and then A, B, C, D, E, F. So we have 16 hexadecimal numbers from 0 to F. So it represents, and but actually it's actually displaying 0x. 0x means it's hexadecimal. Okay, 22FE4C. So N1 22FE4C. So I'm going to write somewhere here. 22 FE4C. Don't worry about the case. I mean, it's not case sensitive. So it's stored at this memory location. Okay, so it's not actually displaying because we have a 64-bit system. 64-bit system, and the whole 64-bit number would require 16 hexadecimal numbers. But it's actually because each 4-bit number would be a 4-bit group, can be represented using hexadecimal number. It's actually representing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But where are the rest of the 10 numbers? They are all zeros. Okay, so the actual address is 0x 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. These are all zeros, and the actual address is 22FE4C. Similarly, I mean, if I want to represent a number 123, these numbers are not significant. Okay, but the numbers here, if I press, if I type zeros here, they are significant. So these are not, the computer is not displaying these numbers, the leading zeros, because we know they are already there. The actual address is this, because 64-bit number is such a large number, and we can have like 18 billion gigabytes of memory available in the computer, provided that we have that much random access memory installed. But in this computer which I'm using right now, I have only 4 gigabytes. So it's a really small memory space. I mean, it can go from 0x all zeros to somewhere around like FFF I mean, we can figure out that what is the final number for this 4 GB space, but not right now. But you can understand that the computer memory, if I have 4 GB of memory, we can visualize 4 GB as this is the first byte, this is the second byte, this is the third byte, this is the fourth byte, this is the sixth byte, and all the way to like fourth billionth byte. So each, I mean, in some memory, I mean, it's like a very large memory space right now. In some memory, in some bytes, we have the operating system loaded, and in some bytes we have this program one note loaded. In some byte we have this dev c++. In some bytes we have this address objects.executable file uploaded. In some file I might have the Windows Explorer uploaded, and in some files, sorry, in some memory space I have this Chrome browser loaded. Okay, so in this, I mean, this is stored or something like that. So what we are going to what where were we? Okay, so what we are going to do is that we've seen that these variables are stored in these memory locations. So the point of the topic today is pointers. Pointers means pointing to something. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to store this address in a special kind of variable which we call the pointer variables. I'm going to store the address. Where is the address? The address is given here. But how did we find the address? We used the ampersand operator, or something known as a referencing operator, or some people call it an address operator. So we, using the ampersand operator, this is make sure you do not mix it up with the AND operator, logical AND operator. We have to use the double ampersand there. Okay, so this is a single ampersand, and do not mix it up with the double ampersand which is used for AND. This is the single ampersand which we are going to use for the address or the referencing operator. And here what we are going to do is that what we are going to do is we are going to store these addresses in a special type of variables which we call the pointer variables. Okay, pointer variables are special kind of variables, and let's see how we can declare a pointer variable. In this first line I have written, let me zoom in there. In the first line I have declared a variable of type integer, and I've named it as integer intvar. You can just name it anything if you want to. And the next line, this line is important. I have declared a variable. The name of this variable is p intvar. Okay, so we can just this p stands for this is just a naming convention, that whenever we are declaring a pointer variable we append a small p to it, so that if you are reading a program, we can see that if some variable's name starts with p, we can figure out that obviously it might be a pointer variable. Okay, but here I haven't written integer, I have written integer star. Okay, the star is a reference, sorry, it's kind of a dereference. Why I have written a star, I'm going to explain that in a recorded lecture. See those recorded lectures, number, what would be the numbers, 34, 35, 36. Okay, and the good news is the recorded lectures are now quite less in duration. The maximum duration is about 15 minutes for 3 lectures. So one recorded lecture would be about 15, 16 minutes, something like that. Okay, so see that the detail here. Okay, but here I've declared a variable or a pointer variable which can point to an integer. Okay, this line is important. I have declared a pointer variable which can point to an integer. The difference between this line and this line is it has a name, it also has a name, it has a type, it also has a type. But I have written star here. That's the only difference. That means if I'm writing a star here next to the type, that means I'm declaring a pointer variable which can point to an integer. And why it's important that the type of this variable, even though all pointer variables will contain addresses eventually, so the type is important because we should know that from where each memory location starts and ends. So if I'm talking about an integer, integer is of 4 bytes, so the pointer variable will contain the address of the first byte. Let's see. And we since we know the type of this pointer variable is integer, so that means that this location starting at the first byte will continue up till 4 bytes. That's why the type matching is important. Okay, I'm going to explain that in about 2-3 minutes. Okay, so in this pointer variable, which I've declared above, I am storing the address of integer variable. Okay, in this I'm storing the address of integer variable, because we know that this ampersand is a address of operator. Okay, so the address has, I mean, the pint var or pint var contains the address of int var. Okay, I'm going to explain that in a moment what this line does. So let's print the cout statement first. Okay, so it says value of int var is 10. I'm going to explain that, but just forget it. Okay, just forget it. Value of pint var is 0x23fe3c. So the pint var contains the pint var, or whatever you want to call it, contains the address of int var. Okay, so the address is 0x23fe3c, and since we have created another pointer variable, so this pointer variable is definitely stored somewhere. So where is it stored? So it is itself stored. If I use the ampersand operator, it's stored at this location. Okay, so let me write it down for you. Let me write it down to some new file, and I'm going to write it down right in front of. Okay, let me delete that for more space. Okay, we have declared a pointer variable. The pointer variable is, the name is printvar. Okay, and it contains the address 0x22fe3c. It contains this address. Where is this address pointing to? So this address is actually the address of int var, and int var is stored 0x22fe3c, and we have stored this address in this variable. So this int var is actually pointing to this int var. Okay, and where is this int var stored? This is stored somewhere else. This is stored at 0x, sorry, the touch works. Okay, this is stored at this is stored at 0x22 fe30. This is stored somewhere else, and this is pointing to this int var. The last thing which I did, I'm going to explain that in a moment what we have done over here. Okay, the last thing, if I want to access, and I'm not going to discuss the benefits and the problems with pointers. Some people might be wondering that why are we discussing this topic. Actually, pointers allow us to access memory directly, so it's actually quite quicker or faster to for some programs. Okay, I mean, that's pretty much the only reason. Some languages even do not allow pointers because they might create some problems later on. Okay, so if I want to access int var, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the dereferencing operator, and I'm going to say 10. So what I'm going to say is, look, where int var is pointing to this variable, I want to say, okay, using this address which is stored here, store the value 10. So I can indirectly, using this line, I can indirectly, if I use the pint var and I write equals to 10, I'm saying, look, you have the address of this line, you have the address of int var. Okay, go there and store the value 10 here. So if I'm using the star operator, I can access the memory location which has whose address is stored in the pointer variable. This thing is going to be explained in a lot detail in the recorded lecture. So this topic, this line, I'm going to remark this line. I'm going to explain that in a detail, but since I'm running out of time, the last thing I want to discuss in this live lecture, let me see if anybody has any questions. So ये क्या लिखा हुआ है? CPP file you upload on classroom lecture live session is not supported, not opening. Please share CPP file in PDF format as you shared before. अच्छा, lectures 25 ठीक है, कर लेंगे. ठीक है, please share in notepad format. अच्छा, what is that? अच्छा खैर, ये कर लेंगे. अच्छा, last thing पहले देख लेते हैं जल्दी से, टाइम खत्म होने वाला है. Okay, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I have declared a variable b. Okay, then I've declared a pointer variable pb. The type of this pointer variable is bool. So that means that this variable can only point to a boolean type object. In the next line, I have stored the address of b in this pointer variable. Okay, pointers of v in this pointer variable. I am done exactly the same thing everywhere. I've declared a character c, a variable character c or object character c. I've declared a pointer variable pc. How do we know we are declaring a pointer variable? We are using the star sign here. Okay, and I've stored the address of c in this pointer variable. Watch out the type. The type has to match. Okay, then I've declared a variable n. I've declared a pointer variable pn. I've stored the address of n in pn. Then I've declared variable L. I've declared pointer variable PL. How do I know that? Because I'm using star and I'm using the address of this variable in PL. Same thing repeats. I've declared a long integer LLI. I've declared a pointer variable which can point to long integer SPLLI, and I've stored the address of LLI in this thing. Same thing, I've declared a pointer variable PF which stores the address of F here. How do I know I'm declaring a pointer variable? I'm using star here. Watch out, the types must match. Okay, I've declared a pointer variable PD. It's storing the address of D here. Okay, storing the address of D here. Now this is same stuff. Size of boolean, size of character, size of integer is going to say 1 byte, 1 byte, 4 bytes, 4 bytes, so maybe 8 bytes, 4 bytes, and 8 bytes. Now the important thing is I'm going to declare, I'm going to print the size of these pointer variables. This is important. So I'm going to size of using function. So let's discuss the output, that the size of bool is 1, the size of character is 1, the size of integer is 4, the size of long is 4, the size of long integer is 8, and size of float is 8, and size of double is 8. The size of these pointer variables, okay, so the size of these pointer variables, what I'm doing here is using size of PB, pointer variable PB, pointer variable PC, which was pointing to character, pointing to integer, pointing to long integer, pointing to float, pointing to double. Let's check the size. The size of this pointer variable, all of these pointer variable is 8. No matter what the point, because each address is of 64 bits. Okay, the pointer variable is storing an address of 64 bits, and 64 bits translate to 8 bytes. So even if we have a pointer variable which has the address of a character itself is of 1 byte, but the size of that pointer variable is going to be 8 bytes. So if you are using a 32-bit operating system, and your computer is also obviously 32 bits, so the pointer variable size would be 4 bytes, because 32 bits is 4 bytes. But if you are using a 64-bit operating system, the pointer variable itself, which is storing the address, will be 8 bytes. Okay. For some reason, I could not print the value of PC, some awkward reason. So you might want to use the cout set format as hex, and unset format to dec. But for some reason, I could not print the value of address stored by PB. So what we can infer from there is that the last thing is address is stored by PB, pointer variable, which is pointing to bool. So this address is actually that boolean variable B. So this address not visible here, but that would have been the address of the character C. This address is stored at PL, but it is the address of the long type variable. This is the address of long integer, and this address is of float, and this address is of double. But pointers, last thing, the pointers are just special types of variables which can store addresses of other objects. So obviously these pointers itself, they are variables, they are special kind of variables, but the only specialty is that their types must match. Okay, so you can see that the pointer variable has to be of the same type to which the object it is pointing. The reason is that the pointer variable is actually storing the address of the first byte at which the object is stored. So if the object is of 8 bytes long, the pointer variable is going to store the address of the first byte. So how do we know that this memory location to which the pointer variable is actually pointing at, how long this location is? So that location would be of 8 bytes looking at the type of that pointer variable. Pointer variable here is of type long integer, but the pointer variable here is of type float. So we can say that this memory location would be running to 4 bytes. and this memory location which was pointing to bool, that would be running to 1 byte only. Okay, so coming back quickly to the last output, these pointer variables, they are stored somewhere else in the memory. So PB is stored at this thing. How did I figure out? How did I figure out that where these pointer variables themselves are stored? I use the address of operator. Okay, so here in the last few lines, I'm using the address of operator. So that finishes our today's live class. Don't leave unless I take the attendance. Um, the details would be given in the recorded lectures 34, 35, 36, and there will be a lot more detail, but the size of that lecture is quite um, small. Okay. Then for how many students? 110. एक मिनट 110 हो गए, ये हो गया, और बेटा अभी जाना नहीं, डोंट लीव द क्लास. डेस्कटॉप ये सेव हो गई और ये सेव हो गई. अच्छा ये मैं ये क्यों नहीं खुल रही? यार एक काम ये करो कि जिसकी सीपीपी फाइल्स नहीं खुल रही, वो एक प्रोग्राम है, इंटरनेट पे जाओ और यहाँ पे लिखो 7zip. ठीक है, 7zip लिख के ना ये डाउनलोड कर लें. जस्ट डाउनलोड दिस प्रोग्राम. This will open any zip file provided it's not password protected. ठीक है, पासवर्ड प्रोटेक्टेड को खोलने का कोई और तरीका होता है, तो ये वाली नहीं. पर मैंने कोई, आई मीन आई हैवंट डन एनी पासवर्ड प्रोटेक्टेड फाइल. सो जस्ट गो टू दिस 7zip.org, डाउनलोड दिस प्रोग्राम. अगर अभी भी नहीं खुल रही, जस्ट पोस्ट इट इन द क्लास कमेंट्स एंड दैट्स इट. बाकी किसी कुछ पूछना है तो मैं यहाँ पे हूँ, चैट बॉक्स में लिख दो यहाँ पे, और चैट बॉक्स में लिखते रहो, मैं जवाब देता रहूंगा, जिसको जाना है वो जाए. ठीक है. ओके, सो कमिंग टू मुदस्सिर, मैंने जवाब दे दिया इसका. यार वो तुम पहले 7zip डाउनलोड करो, उससे सीपीपी फाइल जो जिप फाइल है वो खोलो. पीडीएफ पता नहीं मुझसे कैसे बनेगी, इसमें पीडीएफ डेफ में बनती भी है इसकी, मुझे ये भी नहीं पता. सेव एज अगर करूँ तो क्या बन जाएगी? इसमें कहाँ है पीडीएफ का ऑप्शन? ऐसा करता हूँ, डायरेक्ट सीपीपी फाइल्स ही अपलोड कर लेता हूँ, खुद ही देख लेना. ठीक है, वो ज़्यादा अच्छा रहेगा, जिप फाइल करने की जरूरत नहीं है. लास्ट थिंग, अब जिसको जाना है वो जाए, अटेंडेंस हो गई है, और जिसको यहाँ पे सवाल पूछना है वो पूछता रहे. फाइनल एग्जाम सिलेबस, गुड क्वेश्चन. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन. एक मिनट देखता हूँ भाई, फाइनल एग्जाम सिलेबस कैसे पता चलेगा? ये सर कहीं है, सबर करो बताते हैं. फाइनल एग्जाम सिलेबस, यार स्ट्रीम में जाओ, यहाँ पे कहीं पर हमने कुछ पोस्ट किया था. गाइडलाइंस फॉर स्टूडेंट्स पे जाओ ना, ये अपलोड नहीं हुआ हुआ था. मोड ऑफ असेसमेंट पे जाओ. 20%, एक मिनट पहले इसको ऐड कर लो. मिड टर्म एग्जाम 20 मार्क्स का है. ठीक है, एंड ऑफ सेमेस्टर में जिसको जाना है वो जाए. ठीक है, बाकी जिसको ये कहानियां सुननी है वो सुन ले. मिड टर्म एग्जाम जो है वो 20 मार्क्स का है, और सेशनल असेसमेंट 50 मार्क्स के. एंड ऑफ सेमेस्टर एग्जाम 30 मार्क्स का है. ठीक हो गया. अब ये एंड ऑफ सेमेस्टर एग्जाम आएगा कहाँ से, इसका भी कहानी लिखी हुई है. अच्छा, ऑनलाइन क्विज ये बता दिया मैंने, 5-5 नंबर के क्विज होंगे, 5 होंगे, 3 बेसिस स्कोर काउंट होंगे. आप लोग बुक खोल के देख सकते हैं, कोई मना नहीं है. आप लोग चाहें तो पीडीएफ फाइल भी खोल के देख सकते हैं, कोई मना नहीं है. ठीक है, ओपन बुक समझ लो उसको, तो नो प्रॉब्लम एट ऑल. और सुबह 9 बजे से रात 11 बजे तक कभी भी दे देना. अल्लाह करे आपकी वो बिजली का, पानी का, जो बारिश का और इंटरनेट का मसला ना हो. ठीक है, यह सबके साथ मसला चल रहा है. हमारे यहाँ लाइट जाती है तो हमारे में इंटरनेट बंद हो जाता है. अच्छा खैर, अब यहाँ पे होमवर्क असाइनमेंट ये दे दिया ना. होमवर्क असाइनमेंट पता नहीं क्या है ये उसमें आ गया, सॉरी. होमवर्क असाइनमेंट ओपन एंडेड प्रॉब्लम्स तो नहीं है, लेकिन 5 और 10 मार्क्स मिलाकर 15 मार्क्स का आपका असाइनमेंट है. ठीक है, ये हो गया. आगे चलते हैं. व्यूइंग ऑफ रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर, यार अल्लाह जाने कौन करेगा अटेंडेंस, मैं तो पूरी दे दूंगा. सही है, इसमें आई होप सबने आपको देख होंगे लेक्चर, तो ये 10 सबके आ जाएंगे इसके अंदर. अब सबर करो, यहाँ पे कुछ लिखा हुआ है. हाँ, ये देखो, मिड टर्म वीक 1 टू वीक 5 हो गया. ठीक हो गया, ये मिड टर्म हो गया ना. अब उसको उसको डिलीट, उसको भूल जाओ. फिर एंड ऑफ सेमेस्टर में यहाँ लिखा हुआ है 6 to 10 का सिलेबस है. सही है. किसने कहा था भैया? फाइनल था, हाँ अब्दुल्ला, आवाज आ रही है. एंड ऑफ 6 to दोबारा देखते हैं, भूल गया. 6 to 10, लेकिन एक मसला है इसके अंदर. 6 to 10 नहीं होगा ये मेरा ज्यादा ख्याल है ना. ये मैं सर इकबाल अजीम से भी और कंफर्म कर लूंगा, क्योंकि वो फर्स्ट ईयर के कोऑर्डिनेटर हैं, क्लास एडवाइजर नहीं है वो, कोऑर्डिनेटर हैं. एक चीज होती है यहाँ पे, कोई सिस्टम मैनेजमेंट होता है। तो उसमें हुआ ये कि हमारी तो 10th वीक में क्लासेस ही नहीं हुई हैं, सही है। 10th वीक में हमारा मिड टर्म था, जो कि हमारा 11 के पता नहीं कौन से हफ्ते में हुआ है। तो मेरा यहाँ तक ख्याल है कि इसका जो सिलेबस होगा वो 6 to 9 वीक होगा, ठीक है, नॉट सो श्योर। और प्रैक्टिकल्स का हमें कुछ नहीं, ये पता नहीं क्या किया हुआ है इन्होंने, प्रैक्टिकल्स का 8 to 14 लिखा हुआ है। नहीं 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 नहीं, बताओ, हमारा यही वाला है, 6 to 10 होगा, लेकिन मेरा यहाँ तक ख्याल है 6 to 9 होगा। अब 6 to 9 के जो लेक्चर नंबर होंगे वो आप देख लो कि जो मिड टर्म आया था वो आया था लेक्चर नंबर 1 से लेके 15 तक। तो ये फाइनल एग्जाम होगा, ये होगा 16 17 18, 16 से लेके 27 तक, ठीक है, मेरा ज्यादा ख्याल है। इट कुड बी, मैं यहाँ पे लिख रहा हूँ कि 16 से लेके 27 तक हो सकता है रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर, ठीक है, और लाइव लेक्चर जो भी इसका कोरिस्पॉन्डिंग होगा, सही है, वो देख लेना। और अच्छा, इसकी प्रॉब्लम्स कैसी आएंगी यार? प्रॉब्लम्स जो है ना वो जैसे क्विज जैसी प्रॉब्लम्स है ना, और हमने जो रिकॉर्डेड लेक्चर्स में जो प्रैक्टिस प्रॉब्लम्स डिस्कस की हैं वो चीजें आएंगी, ठीक है, इस तरह की। बाकी असाइनमेंट से प्रॉब्लम्स आ सकती हैं, असाइनमेंट कुड बी इंक्लूडेड सिंपल प्रॉब्लम्स, ठीक है, असाइनमेंट जैसे आप जमा करा रहे हैं तो असाइनमेंट से भी फाइनल एग्जाम में प्रॉब्लम्स आ सकती हैं। और इसकी ड्यूरेशन 3 आवर्स है। बाकी बस कंप्यूटर भी होगा, कोड लिखना होगा उसी में, जैसे होगा भाई कोड पहले वर्ड पे लिखो। जो उन लोगों को मिड टर्म में मसला हो रहा था, पहले वर्ड या नोटपैड पे आंसर लिख लो। अगर तुम्हारा गूगल फॉर्म क्रैश कर गया क्या करोगे? फिर दोबारा टाइप करोगे तो खौरी हो जाएगी, टाइम ही नहीं बचेगा। पहले वर्ड पे लिख लो, फिर बाद में कॉपी पेस्ट कर लो। खुदा ना खास्ता गूगल फॉर्म क्रैशेस, यू कैन जस्ट कॉपी पेस्ट लेटर ऑन, ठीक है, समझ आ गया? अब मुझे नहीं पता कि 9th वीक के बाद जो आजकल हम लोग पढ़ रहे हैं ये लैब्स में आ रहा है या थ्योरी में आ रहा है, ये ऐसी कोई फाइनल पॉलिसी आएगी तो हम बता देंगे, ठीक है, लेकिन ये क्विज में होगा। अच्छा यार, आखिर में अरसलान, ये आखिर में करना तो पड़ा ना लोगों को, जिनके वर्ड गूगल फॉर्म्स क्रैश हो गए उनको तो वर्ड में करना ही पड़ा ना, उनको लगा बताना पड़ा कि भाई हमारा वर्ड फॉर्म क्रैश हो गया, हम क्या करें, तो उनको तो करना ही पड़ा। मेरा ख्याल है नोट पैड करना चाहिए। अच्छा अब आगे चलो, जिसको जाने है वो जाए भाई, क्लास खत्म हो गई है। अच्छा हाँ, मैं यही कह रहा हूँ कि कॉपी पेस्ट नोट पैड, ये क्या लिखा है? क्विज डेट्स, क्विज डेट्स बताई नहीं है भाई, क्विज डेट्स कहाँ से आएंगी? ये क्यों नहीं गायब हो रहा? क्विज डेट्स देखो, क्विज डेट्स यहाँ लिखी हुई हैं, पढ़ो ना इसको। ये लिखा हुआ क्विज 1 अगले वेंसडे को, फिर संडे को, फिर वेंसडे संडे फिर वेंसडे, ठीक है, आसान है, कोई इतना मसला नहीं है। आप बुक खोल के देख लेना, पीडीएफ फाइल खोल के देख लेना, कोई मसला नहीं है, ठीक है, इसकी टेंशन नहीं लेनी, लेकिन एक दफा पढ़ लेना ये कि सवाल क्या पूछ रहे हैं। तो एक बार आंसर दे दिया तो वो फिर सेव हो जाता है, वापस नहीं आ सकते। अच्छा और क्या है? सर इफ देयर आर 1 or 2 टाइपिंग मिस्टेक्स, नहीं, नंबर पूरे नहीं करते। वो होता ये कि पॉइंट डिपेंड करता है सवाल कितना बड़ा है। वो आपको अगर नंबर काटते हैं तो बता देते हैं भाई ये नंबर इस वजह से कटे हैं। अगर देखो सेमीकोलन हर जगह ही मिसिंग है तो जाहिर है फिर तो नंबर कटते हैं, लेकिन एक जगह लिखने से रह गया, बाद में लिख दिया, कोई इतना मसला नहीं है, 0.25 कटते हैं पर सिंटेक्स एरर। सर अगर एक मिनट, ये क्या लिखा हुआ है, कैन यू हाउ स्ट्रिक्ट इज द चेक? यार मेट इतना बच्चों वाला था, उसमें क्या चेकिंग की हुआ है? बच्चों वाला सवाल थे अक्सर के, तो सही है। सर इफ मिड में कोडिंग थोड़ी गलत हुई है, आई मीन डायरेक्ट हम ऑनलाइन कर रहे थे देन पूरी मार्क्स नहीं, लॉजिक ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है। फाइनल होंगे कब तक? क्लास एडवाइजर से पूछें। अच्छा फिर उसके बाद क्या लिखा है, देयर एनी 2 टाइपिंग मिस्टेक? नहीं वो इतना खास नहीं है। मैं क्या करूं ये भाई, नोट पैड आखिर में बाद बच्चों को यूज करना पड़ा था क्योंकि उनका गूगल फॉर्म ही क्रैश करके, आप क्या करेंगे? आपका इंटरनेट बंद हो गया, फिर आप क्या करेंगे? आप रिफ्रेश करेंगे देन। क्विज किस टाइम होगा? ये लिखा हुआ है सुबह, सुबह 9 से रात 11 बजे तक, आप कभी भी दे सकते हैं, 1 घंटे का टाइम होगा और कुछ नहीं, ठीक है, दैट्स इट यार, टाइम खत्म हो गया, अल्लाह हाफिज। सब लोग क्लास लीव करें, जिसको और पूछना है वो पूछ ले, बाकी लोग जाएं, ठीक है।